This is the second revision video for the theme relationships, and this will cover the topics of sex, so sex both before and outside of marriage, contraception, and cohabitation. Firstly, let's look at views on sex before marriage, focusing on society views. You can see from the graph that more people now think that premarital sex, which is sex before marriage, is acceptable. And now around 75% of people think that that's okay. The UK law states that anyone over the age of 16 can have consensual sex. Many people in society now do not wait until they are married to have sex, and this is because they see sex as being for fun, for pleasure, and many think if you're in a happy relationship but aren't married, it's a good way of showing commitment and love to each other. Sex before marriage is now widely accepted in British society, and this is shown through media like magazines, films, television programmes that reflects this belief. However, young religious people in this society might feel caught between British views and their religion. Many Christians believe that you should wait until marriage to have sex, and the idea or the term for waiting for marriage to have sex is called chastity. Christians teach that sexual relationships are important and that sex is a gift from God and is not something to be taken lightly, and that's why they believe that sex should only take place within a marriage, as it's a safe and a stable environment which a couple can share with each other. Marriage is also seen as the best environment to raise a family and links to the idea of being fruitful and multiplying. Sex is important to all Christians as it's a way to continue the human race and express love. The Christian Church believes that the one main purpose of sex is for procreation. Liberal Christians believe that sex before marriage is acceptable if the couple are in love and intend on marrying in the future, because it might well be that marriage is too expensive and it's not something that they can do at that time. Most Jews consider marriage the most important and appropriate place for a sexual relationship. Sex before marriage is considered irresponsible and immoral, as it should be used to create children and the passing on of the Jewish religion. Sex outside of marriage can lead to unwanted pregnancies, the passing of sexual diseases, and it can lower people's respect for others. The Torah and the Talmud say that premarital sex is forbidden. Jews regard sex as being a part of a loving relationship, and it's part of fulfilling God's plan for humans, such as being fruitful and multiplying. The Torah warns against promiscuity and having sex with a number of partners, as it can harm others, and that's why they most forbid sex outside of marriage. In ultra-Orthodox families, people would have chaperones to meet the people that they're engaged to try and stop them having sex before marriage. Sex outside of marriage is when there is a married couple and one of the partners chooses to have sex with somebody else who they're not married to. So often in society it's a form of cheating, and it's called adultery. Now this is wrong in both Christianity and Judaism, as commitment is a big part of a relationship and a marriage. The Ten Commandments instructs do not commit adultery, so sex with someone other than your marriage partner is wrong and it's a sin. Adultery breaks in Christianity the marriage vows, like to love and to cherish, as it's not a loving thing to do. It causes emotional upset to both the partner and if they have any children. At one stage in the past, adultery was actually punishable by death. Jews also are against sex outside of marriage and adultery, and in the Torah it says you shall not lust after another man's wife. So using the ideas of sex and its purpose, and other things that we know of, we can now start to think about whether society and religious people would use contraception or not. So contraception is a term that includes any way to prevent a pregnancy as a result of sex. And there's different types of contraception. So I'm going to refer to natural contraception, artificial and permanent. Now, natural contraception is where you only use the women's menstrual cycle to determine when they are going to be more and less fertile. And if the couple did not want children, they would have sex during the less fertile days of the cycle, and that's called the rhythm method. The artificial forms of contraception are things like the contraceptive pill, condoms, the coil, the implant, and things like that. And then permanent methods of contraception include things like sterilization, so hysterectomies and vasectomies, and they do not allow you to have children, and they stop you being able to have them permanently. So Catholics teach that since one of the most important purposes of sex is to procreate, that sex should lead to the creation of new life. They believe that the use of artificial methods of contraception interferes with God's plan and is the gift from God, which is children, and so it's not acceptable. They also don't allow permanent forms of contraception, but they do allow the natural contraceptives like the rhythm method. Liberal Christians believe that sex is also an important way to show love and affection in marriage, but it's not exclusively to create children. And therefore they will allow the use of contraception to regulate the time and the size of their family. They wouldn't still use permanent sterilization, and they prefer not to use abortive forms of contraception like the morning after pill, because actually at that point the sperm and the egg will have fertilized to create new life. Orthodox Jews believe that sex outside of marriage is wrong, so contraception should only be used by a married couple. Some Orthodox Jews don't use contraception at all because they believe that it should be God that decides the size of the family. Reformed Jews believe that you can have sex before marriage, and therefore people might want to use contraception until they're married and they decide to have children. Most Jews allow contraception as long as it is not permanent. Reformed Jews allow contraception to be used for financial reasons and to control the time and the size of the family. Some Orthodox Jews do allow the use of contraception if the health of the mother is at risk if they were to get pregnant, and also to limit the number of children in some cases to ensure that the quality of life of the rest of the family is still high. However, the Jewish law does say that men should not waste their seed, so they prefer the contraceptive pill rather than methods like the condom. Jewish people might seek advice and speak with a rabbi before they use their contraception. British society do accept the use of contraception widely because actually now premarital sex and sex before marriage is more common. Lots of people have sex for fun and pleasure rather than wanting to have children. And they also use it for health reasons to stop the spread of sexually transmitted diseases and infections from different partners. So now we're going to move on to have a look at cohabitation. So cohabitation is when people live together in a sexual relationship that aren't married. Now, cohabitation is really common today in British society. People often live together, couples often live together before they get married, as it's a way of seeing if the couple are compatible before they commit on something like marriage. And it's really common, again, in the media in British society that people do live together before they then take that next step of marriage. And you can see that in different films and TV shows. However, evangelical Christians and some other types of Christians would not cohabit like Catholics because they might believe that actually premarital sex is wrong. Sex is a sacred thing that should only take place within marriage, and therefore you shouldn't be living together in a sexual relationship until you're married. And this is similar to the Orthodox Jew views, as sex outside of marriage would be seen as wasting seed, especially if they're not using it to create children and new life. Liberal Christians and Reformed Jews believe that while marriage should be the first choice, cohabitation is okay as long as you're committed to each other in a serious relationship. It might be that you intend on getting married, but actually at the moment you can't afford it, and so therefore you still want to live together because you love each other.